Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. My name is Christina. This is a reading for Leo, or if you're just feeling drawn to this message for whatever reason, then it's for you. The main focus of this reading is 3 questions. What is your current energy? How can you shift your focus? And where is an area of growth? So Leo, I've already pulled your cards. We're going to start off with the bottom of the deck energy. And you have here this Maktub card, which to me represents like a cosmic remote control, Leo. So for you, the whole point of your reading today is I feel like you're at this very significant choice point. It's like you're choosing something new is basically what this card is talking about. And once you make that choice, there are like a series of events that will play out for you. And it feels very sort of expansive and new and wonderful and perhaps focusing on your abundance, but doesn't have to be. But I feel like what it is that you're choosing is going to end up very abundant is how this is coming through. And then you have here the Queen of Inspiration and the Empress. So this is what I feel like this is the choice. Like it's like I feel like Queen of Inspiration, of course, is you, Leo. But it's kind of like making the choice to become something new or to take on a new sort of identity or role or something like that. This was reminding me of like, you know, in tarot, how sort of the King of Wands is almost like a pre-emperor energy. But this for you today, Leo, is like the Queen of Wands being a pre-empress energy. So it's kind of like you're expanding into some new aspect, but because it's coming through with all of this sort of like yellowy solar plexus energy, there's a lot of that there. So it could be something about like willpower or your identity or your individualism or independence, perhaps, something like that. Or like taking on a new role, it could be. But how I was seeing this is like with the Queen of Inspiration being like receiving information or guidance or like thinking about a new path to take with all this like sort of knowledge kind of like theme in this one, and then actually taking that information and knowledge and creating something out of it is how I'm seeing this Empress energy today, which is really exciting for you. And then you have here the Movement card, which is absolutely this sort of like forward momentum. You made a choice. Now that you're sort of on this new path, things are sort of moving steadily along. Events are kind of unfolding. However, there's this element. We had like this. So this Movement card was the one on the bottom of the deck. And then underneath that was this combination of cards, which I had to take because I feel like there's this sort of element that's almost like needing to be cleared up. It was coming through as like phantom pain, right? So it's kind of like talking about if you've made a new choice to move towards something, there's of course going to be things that are left behind or you're not taking with you. And that sort of brings in this sort of phantom pain of like the things that are being left behind, even though they may not be in your physical environment still or like attached to you in some way, it could still leave, like there still may be an energetic tie that perhaps is causing pain. It's like you can feel it even though it's not there anymore or that kind of thing. And I feel like that's sort of what's wanting to be cleared or addressed for this reading today, or that's like what the current focus is as well, because all of that energy sort of in this section, and then it sort of moves on to something else. So the first 2 cards for the Prism decks were Frustration card and the Determination. This one's kind of hard to see with the glare, but both of these cards jumped out really quickly for you today, Leo. And this Frustration card is interesting because it, to me, generally talks about like how if you're trying to manifest something, what's coming in is not quite a match. But I feel like that's what this like phantom pain is, where it's like you realized that this was not a match, right? It's like you tried to manifest something arrived, there was like a connection made, or like you accepted this sort of manifestation into your environment somehow, but now because of like this new choice that you're making, it's almost like this block perhaps an actual blockage is clearing out of your life, right? It's like either you made the choice to leave or it's being cleared from your environment in whatever way. And it's kind of like because you made this new choice is what this is talking about. It's like because I feel like whatever this thing was, it's like it came with frustration in that it wasn't a complete match to what it is that you really were wanting to manifest, right? It's like, I see this as being sort of like the plan or the space that you open up in your life for like sort of the universe to fill, right? It's like you created space in your life to receive something, and like what it is that came in wasn't a complete match, but it kind of like, I guess, was like a stepping stone or just like a temporary sort of, or it's just like the idea that you can't quite know what it is that you want until you sort of experience something and then realize that it's not what you want. That's sort of, it's like trying some stuff at a buffet and then like being able to choose like, this is good, this is not good, that kind of thing. And it's kind of just like, now you're at the stage where you're no longer choosing the things that are not good for you, is kind of how this combination of cards is coming through, which is interesting with these 3 tarot cards. So we have the Star, which I'm seeing as you today, Leo, but it's interesting because the Star is an Aquarius card, and Aquarius is Leo's opposite. So it's it could be that what you're choosing next for the Empress, it might be something that's different or unexpected for you up until this point. It's like you had a certain role. There was like all this like sort of Queen of Inspiration energy, which is more of a typical Leo energy, but the choice that you're making now, not that it's not like wrong for you, but it's that it's new, it's different, it's something that is perhaps like unexpected for you, but also unexpected for people around you as well. Like they may be seeing you as being almost like a different version or like an opposite sort of like identity kind of thing, which is interesting. But it's all of this sort of determination, right? All of this like bright illumination kind of energy. It's like you have a focus. There's all this sort of like spotlight energy for you today, where it's like you are sort of the source of the light, and you're directing it in sort of the direction that you want to move into. Is how it's coming through. Which is interesting here is like the 5 of Voices, because there's a lot of this sort of like reflection energy here in your reading today. And this 5 of Voices today was coming through as like a lose-lose situation, which is kind of interesting. I was thinking of like, I have family members who are like lactose intolerant, right? It's like their bodies cannot process milk very well. It causes disruption in their intestinal systems. However, they still choose to consume lactose things such as like ice cream because it tastes good. However, it's kind of like they're willing to endure non-favorable consequences for something that's not even worth it, is kind of how this card is coming through. I feel like that's what you're moving away from though, Leo. It's like there was something here that perhaps on a surface level had like some sort of gain or pleasure or whatever it is, right? Like like a distraction, right? Like something short term or short lived. But it's like it wasn't good for you, and it was also causing discomfort. So like but because it's something that perhaps you're used to, something that does provide comfort in some way, it is kind of difficult to sort of detach from that attachment or reliance or whatever that is. And I feel like that's sort of the stage that you're in, where it's like you are making the choice to detach from it, but the sort of distraction or the draw is still there, and it's causing like phantom pain, right? It's like you've removed that aspect, but the energetic sort of connection or tie is still there. And I feel like that's sort of what this Hermit card is talking about. It's like you are sort of going towards something new, whatever this sort of illumination energy is, but sort of the first steps towards that may be a bit challenging, or I don't want to say isolating because I don't see it like that, but the first steps are almost like a desert. Like it's almost like you have to like cut back on whatever it is that was causing you. Like if you're used to eating ice cream every day, right? Like the first day without ice cream is kind of like difficult. The first couple of days is kind of how this is talking about. Whether or not it's ice cream, I'm just using as an example because of dinner conversation yesterday. But okay. But you're at this stage here, Leo. So it's like you have the Queen of Emotions, the Death card, and the Ace of Voices, right? So this is perhaps the energy that you're leaving behind. This Queen of Emotions, with the Death card clearly just talking about an ending. I always see this one as sort of like clearing the cobwebs, right? The energetic sort of ties or links or like, if we're talking about like phantom pain in limbs, like the actual limb is not there anymore. It's been removed, but the neural connections within your brain for that limb still exist, right? It's like those are kind of more difficult to remove or detach from in this case. And with this Ace of Voices, because it talks about like going towards something, like moving towards a finish line or a completion point, but it's, with all of this sort of forward momentum, right? It's like your focus is on the future of what you're going towards, of all this, of crossing this finish line, this ending point. However, there is sort of a looking back energy. It's almost like they're I don't know whether it's like it could be that they're sort of pulling you in, but it feels more so just like those connections are still there, and it does take a while for you to realize that that's not sort of like an area that you should sort of go towards, especially if we're talking about like, well, in like neural connections, the connections that are strengthened are the ones that you continually sort of use and nurture. The connections that end up falling away are the ones that you don't, that are not activated, right? It's kind of, and so it's kind of like for you, Leo, what it is that you're focused on perhaps is like trying to not activate whatever this connection is, right? It's like trying not to activate it, trying to actually clear it. But it's like there is sort of this process here where that energy has to like not, like it's almost like in order to clear or block out this energy, you have to focus on what it is you're moving towards, right? There's this thing here, so reflection and partnership. So this could be like a friendship or something like that, right? Like somebody that was able to reflect back to you some aspect of your identity perhaps, or something that you needed clear sight on perhaps, something like that. But there's this energy here, so especially here with like the eyes, right? It's like this one kind of looks like not suspicious. It just looks like almost like it's dissatisfaction, right? There's some sort of dissatisfaction in this dynamic here where it's like you were perhaps both having to endure kind of not pleasant consequences for something that didn't seem worth it. It's kind of interesting. But here you have the next card. It was a friction card, right? And so with this card, there was a specific Rumi quote that I will read to you from the book. It says, "If you are irritated by every rub, how will your mirror be polished?" So I feel like there was perhaps an irritation here that had to do with the partnership of some sort. Because I'm just like being drawn to, like, one's a fire sign. That's you clearly, Leo. The other one is earth. So it feels like perhaps there was some sort of like grit that I feel like there was an attempt to polish either both, like, well, both of you, I want to say. It's like there was an attempt to polish perhaps both of you, or like improve upon a certain situation. It's kind of like it became too much, which is fine. I feel like it's like it became too much perhaps for one or both of you, and it's kind of like it's being removed now. It's kind of like the friction of it was too much, perhaps. With this Nirvana card, which is interesting, it comes with this message of, well, this idea or concept is, if you hold a candle up to the light, the flame itself does not cast a shadow, right? Even though it's like the flame is there, there's no shadow on it. But if you blow out the flame, the smoke, which we would, I guess, in our physical sort of sense, interpret as being less bright than the flame itself, the smoke itself actually casts a shadow now. And I feel like that's sort of the phantom pain aspect that's coming in, where it's like the flame is out, you've released something, but you're now sort of dealing with the smoke, the pain that is caused by the blowing out of that candle, if that makes sense, Leo. Which is really interesting, because you have this is the next section of like, how can you shift your focus? It's all this like having to sort of like allow the smoke to dissipate, and like perhaps just being aware that connection or that link or whatever is not something that you're wanting to strengthen anymore, right? It's like you're not wanting to put your attention on that, because it's something that sort of needs to fall away. But the more you put attention on it, the more it sort of strengthens. There's that sort of kind of like aspect of it. But what I'm seeing here is that, okay, you have here the hunger card. So this is the next section of how you can shift your focus, which I want to link. Well, this is first of all solar plexus. I always think of the solar plexus for this whenever this card comes out. But I want to link it to the frustration point, because it's kind of like you're back at this point now that this sort of block has been removed. I'm saying block because it's a literal block in this picture, but it could have been causing some sort of blockage within your manifestations, right? And I want to bring up this Empress card again, where it's kind of just like you're at sort of, because this I was talking about as like some sort of manifestation that was not quite a match to what it is that you want. So now you're back at this stage where it's like receiving perhaps inspiration about what it is that you actually do want. It's like you're at the starting point again, right? You're at this sort of choice point, perhaps receiving a lot of information as well. But I feel like for you now, Leo, especially with this Empress is sort of like putting on a cloak, I feel like the focus wants to shift so that in this next iteration or next manifestation, when something comes into your experience, I feel like you are going to be a bit more discerning, right? It's like a bit more sort of conscious of whether or not it is a match to you or not, is kind of how this is coming through. So that this experience doesn't happen again. And I feel like it wasn't necessarily, like, it's not feeling like very negative, right? It's kind of just like you blow out the flame and that's it. I feel like it's going to pass quite quickly, because what it is that you're going towards is this energy. Like you do have the three voices, so there is some aspect of, but I don't ever sort of see this as being heartbreak. I see it more so as being fear, right? Of like, now that this sort of block, like it kind of feels like a protection kind of thing, where it's like, this is that, this door perhaps, or this physical structure is what is being removed. So it's kind of like for you, it may feel like there's nothing between you and whatever this energy is, right? And that could just be fear or like having to step into the unknown, right? But that's sort of like you've made the choice to move towards this, regardless of sort of any sort of fear or it's just like fear of the unknown, right? It's like, I don't think this energy, because it appears to be something that's like dark, and perhaps there's sadness or whatever it is, but it's like you're moving towards it anyway, because you know that sort of fear is sort of that barrier that you have to step through always whenever you're sort of going through anything. Fear is always sort of that last sort of threshold that you have to step into. But you have the Lover's energy here, which is just talking about a choice. Like, you've made that choice, Leo. Or it's encouraging you to almost like commit to that choice, that you've decided to leave something behind or step towards something. There's always sort of both. You're stepping towards something, which means that you have to leave something behind. But then right after that is you have the Knight of Inspiration. So like just comparing these cards, because the colors are so similar, right? It's all of the same energy. It's like as soon as this sort of blockage, I'm calling it, is removed, you're absolutely being able to sort of move very quickly into your next manifestation, is kind of how this is looking today. Okay, I'm actually going to pause here. For this round of videos, I'm putting the extendeds on YouTube, so you can go watch that immediately. I'm just trying to sort of condense the length of the video so that it's not too long. So you can go check that out. I do have other videos if you're interested in watching those. Thanks so much for sharing your energy with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.